To me, it's about the questions that we ask, right? So knowing what questions to ask, and I go into great detail on some questions to ask, like asking sponsors, what's their track record? What would they do in this scenario, that scenario? How did things fare throughout the coronavirus situation? Or, what happens if? And so diving into those questions and understanding who the people are behind the deals, because at the end of the day, this is a people business, whether you like it or not. And I do, by the way, I love that it's a people business. And so just kind of going into those types of questions.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to Weiss Advice. I am your host on this journey today, Yonah Weiss, as always. It's great to have you joining us once again. We have a wonderful guest with us, Ben Kogut. What's going on, my friend?
Hey, Yonah, thanks so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Well, I hope you are happy. I wouldn't want you to be here in any other way. So,
Amen.
Thanks for joining me, guys. Got to learn a little bit about the context of Ben. He is an all-star rock star in the commercial real estate space. He is a partner at HJH Investments. So you didn't get one of the initials yet.
Not yet.
But HJH Investments, they own commercial real estate across the country, mostly commercial. Commercial real estate is commercial, yeah, but mostly retail and office. And we'll get into some of that, especially retail, especially in this time, this day and age. Love to hear your opinion on what's going on with that. His main focus is in the capital raising, investor relations side of things. You've been involved with it for, real estate for 15 years or so. So you got a great perspective. Young guy, up and coming and doing great things. And I'm just so happy you took the time out to join us today.
Yonah, the best thing we can do is share the wisdom that we've learned along the way. So hopefully I'll be able to share some of what I've learned along the way as well.
I appreciate that. So let's start out right with that. Like, what's some great wisdom that you've learned along the way?
Yeah. So
very
I
random.
learned that
very vague.
I learned that it's better to copy genius than create mediocrity. And I learned that in high school. And so that set me down a path of surrounding myself with really great mentors. And so I've been super blessed to have really successful commercial real estate people throughout my career and in my life who have really helped me, accelerate the journey to get to where I'm at now and beyond. So that's definitely something that has really impacted me and my career.
That's excellent. You can't overstate that because it's so critical to anyone's real growth is to just emulate and apprentice and surround yourself with those great people. You will gain so much more. I love that quote, like better to copy genius.
It's better to copy genius than create mediocrity.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying not to create things or be creative or try, riskier things. But for me, I'm not the most creative person in the world. So I have found people who have formulas for success that I have emulated that, I'd love to kind of share some more about that too.
Yeah, sure. And, there's an old saying, an old Jewish wisdom from the ethics of our fathers that says something similar vein that says it's better to be a tail to the lions than the head of the foxes. And essentially the same idea is true as who you're surrounding yourself with. And if you surround yourself with like the greatest people, even if you are right at the bottom, right, don't be the smartest person in the room is essentially what that's saying. But
that's
love
right.
to hear some of the things that you're working on. Give me a little more context. You guys, HJH, guys are buying a lot of real estate. What does it look like right now in terms of the portfolio? You guys, looks like every other week you guys are picking up another asset. Yeah,
sure. So we do research every day. We're looking at between 800 and 1,500 deals every week. Our analyst team, and so that's a lot of deals to look at. And we are narrowing it down to about 16 deals that fit in our box. And for us, what they all have in common is it's either a shopping center, an industrial building, or an office building that typically are anchored by high credit tenants with long-term leases. And we typically will make offers on deals somewhere between a 9 and a 10 cap. So on average, every week, we're making about 16 offers, and about 1 out of 16 on average, we're able to put under contract at a below market valuation. And so with that, about 2 out of every 3 of those deals will pass our due diligence process. And once it's gotten to that point, then I get involved. I'm on the capital raising side of our team. And so I'll bring it out to our investors, relationships, people that I know, and say, hey, and I also go to the property. So I've been traveling throughout COVID for
Right.
better or worse. And we've bought 57 properties that we've syndicated now in the last 5-6 years, and we're on track. We do a deal almost not every month, but every month and a half or so. So somewhere between 8 and 10 deals a year. And yeah, it's been fun.
That's a lot. Yeah, it is a lot of fun. I'm sure you're learning a tremendous amount along the way as well. What do you like most about the capital raising side of things?
So a few things. Number one, I've been a commercial real estate broker, and I transitioned into this because I became an investor in commercial real estate syndications. And then as an investor, I built a relationship with the CEO, Corey. He made me an offer I couldn't refuse to become head of investor relations and raising capital. And so the thing that I didn't know about myself prior to this role that I'm in now is that I love to teach. And so I've never taught before. And so now what I find myself doing is teaching people about commercial real estate, about passive income, about, so on and so forth, about the ins and outs and complexities that are included in commercial real estate investing. And so that's really what my main job is to educate and teach people to the best of my ability. So that's number one. And number two, I just love that I get to bring people deals and opportunities to invest. And so that gives people the ability to have their financial freedom through passive income and all that kind of stuff that comes with that. Sure. And so those are two of my favorite things about what I get to do.
That's incredible because, I can relate to that as well. The ability to teach and just share your knowledge and really help people. And you're doing it in such a way that you're able to now show people how to create more passive income, how to create wealth. And it's a great feeling, right? When you do that, right? As a teacher in general, it's a great feeling when you're helping your students, you're helping anyone out. But when you know that you're actually making a huge impact on their lives, that's even more fulfilling. So that's a great answer. So let's switch it. What's the worst thing about capital raising? So
at the beginning, it was, trying to persuade people to become investors. And then I learned through my mentors that that's the opposite mentality to have. So the best mentality to have when raising capital is to be indifferent. And so what I mean by that is I'm here to teach you and educate you about real estate and syndication and this deal and us. Beyond that, it's not up to me to decide on whether or not this is a fit for you at this point in time for you and your family. And so it's kind of pivoted. Like at the beginning, it was really, really tough to raise capital. Thank God it's gotten, better because of our track record and just great quality deals. But yeah, at the beginning, it was super frustrating. Kind of felt like I was bashing my head against the wall, so to speak, trying to raise capital. So that's not so much an issue anymore. Thank goodness. Yeah. So, okay. And then I don't know, things, timing is also a big part of what we do. And so that can, go sideways sometimes, and deals don't always go according to plan, right? Just because it's life and real estate and business. And so, it's always tough to have those types of conversations. Luckily it hasn't been too much, but yeah, we did just go through a worldwide pandemic, and there were certainly, road bumps along the way, and so
came with its challenges. That's for sure.
It has its challenges, and so that's what we're here to do. We specialize in this, and we're working hard every day to protect our investors' capital. That's what's most important.
Right, and retail, the strip centers, like you said, the kind of what you're focusing on, retail strip centers in terms of that regard with retail. But what do you feel about? Obviously, if you're looking at 1,000 deals a week or so on average, or your analyst, that is, there are certainly many that just don't pencil out, right? There's a lot of troubling assets. There's a lot of things that are happening with retail that are making changes in the way that people, conduct their shopping experience. So is that something that has impacted the way you guys have targeted deals?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of negative connotation about shopping centers these days. And obviously Amazon has a lot to do with that. And I think that when you drive around, major cities in the US or really anywhere in the world, frankly, shopping centers aren't completely boarded up and empty. They have pivoted, they've transitioned into services or medical or restaurants or, things that are Amazon proof, so to speak. So when we used to say we'd go to a shopping center, we meant we were going there to go shopping. But these days, that's, I kind of think that industry wide, we should change the jargon, not call it a shopping center, maybe like a service center or a lifestyle center, but service center kind of has like a car connotation to it, so I don't know exactly what it is, but yeah, so what we look for are things that have solid unit economics, or like the most fundamental piece that, how much are they selling that widget or service for, and what's the profit margin? How many of those do they have to sell in order to break even, and so on and so forth, looking down to the most minute detail. Mm-hmm. And, generally speaking, there's high credit tenancy with long-term leases already in place. So that makes it such that the cash flows are a lot more predictable.
Right.
But again, a worldwide pandemic, nobody could have predicted that. And so, so we had to make adjustments along the way. And so for example, in that regard, back in March 2020, we went preemptively to our tenants and said, hey, if you guys need help, we're here to help you. And so we structure our deals with robust reserve accounts. And so that gives us the flexibility to help out our tenants, because nobody wins when a tenant loses. Like we're business partners.
Right.
And so we ended up doing about we waived about $150,000 in rents. In exchange, we generally speaking negotiated lease extensions. And so we added over 100 years of lease obligations to our portfolio back about a year ago, right at the beginning of the pandemic. So, we made lemonade out of lemons, and luckily now that we're kind of pulling out of it, tenants, a lot of them are really thriving right now. It's really kind of incredible.
That's amazing. It's good news, because you do hear, or I guess it really depends who hears what, but people like, mainstream media or whatever news likes to give this kind of doomsday about retail. And obviously, maybe not as obvious as people might like to think of it, but some of that may be coming from Amazon, and that they're trying to push some of that agenda out there. But without getting too political, let me switch gears a little bit here. You have a new ebook that just came out, which is called The 5 Things to Consider When Investing in Commercial Real Estate Syndications.
Yes, it is. Yes, it's at my website, hjhinvestments.com/book. It's the first time I've ever tried to write a book or put any content out there. And it was inspired through a series of your 10-day challenges, as a matter of fact. And so I have to thank you.
I get some royalties.
We'll send you. You get a penny every time that it sells, which is free, by the way. So we'll have to work something out.
I'll get a free book without giving you my email address. How about that? I'm already on your email list, so it's all good.
Perfect. Yeah. So, I wanted to create some content and share some of the lessons that I've learned along the way, and both as an investor as well as a syndicator. And so we go into talking about goals and a way to diversify, because you probably see this a lot more than I do. I mean, when I'm looking around at who's syndicating commercial real estate, I mean, I would guess 80% or more are people who are doing multifamily. Would you agree with that?
I guess it depends in the circles that you run in, but multifamily syndication definitely has a much more widespread interest, especially like in the world of social media.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that, commercial real estate other than multifamily does not come along with syndications. I would say to the opposite. It's just not as publicly, knowledgeable, but yeah, I mean, it is fair to say that if out there what you're hearing about is definitely more than 80% for sure.
Yeah, so that was one of the things that inspired me. Is like, hey, I'm not really seeing much information out there about other asset classes, and turns out there's frankly a lot less competition. Is how I feel about it, and I base that on the yields and the spread that we're able to achieve buying things in somewhere between a 9 and a 10 cap with great quality, tenants, long-term leases, all those, fundamentals, we check the boxes versus people that are, excited about buying, apartment complexes in the 4, 5, 6 cap range, which just, I'm not here to bash multifamily. I'm not. I mean, I think it's a great asset class, but there's certainly a lot of other alternatives where I wanted to help kind of illuminate that for people to see that there is other, ways to earn steady monthly passive income.
Right.
And so in the ebook, we talk about that. We talk about, there's a Harvard professor who I learned from, or I studied, I didn't get to meet him, but named Bill Solomon. And he talks about the fundamentals of valuation. And he also goes into what the rules of cash are. Have you ever heard of what the 4 rules of cash?
No, enlighten me.
All right. So I'll do my best. So, and they're going to be like, oh yeah, duh, but they're fundamentals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so rule number 1, more cash is better than less cash. Okay.
Okay.
Easy.
You got me.
Rule number 2, less risky cash is better than risky cash.
All righty. Okay.
All right.
We'll have to explain that a little bit, but yeah. Okay. It sounds good.
We can. Cash now is better than cash later.
Oh, yeah. That fundamental principles for sure.
Sure. And rule number 4, please, nobody forget this. Never run out of cash.
Oh, there you go. Never run out of cash. I'll make sure to put that on my checklist also. Okay. So they're fundamentals. They seem simple, but it seems like there's something behind that.
Yes, you got it. Wise advice. I love it. So let's talk about my favorite one, which is cash now is better than cash later. Right? Time value of money, for example, some people, it's in their goals where they are looking for monthly passive income. That's my goal. I'm 38 years old. I'm looking to build a portfolio of passive income. Some other people, they don't need the income. They're happy, putting money in now, waiting 3 or 5 years or however long that deal takes, and then they'll just get a big pop on the backside. And so we take a different approach. We structure it where we are buying deals that are cash flowing on day 1, so that on month 1, they're going to get a distribution. They're going to get a dividend, ACH to their account. Mm-hmm. And that is, once we get the rent, we turn around and pay it out. And so alternatively, there are other asset classes. You put money in and you might not see a check for a year or 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. And so we talk in more detail about why cash now is better than cash later. Gotcha. So that's one example.
No, that's great. That's excellent example. I love how you articulate that also, because there are so many different types of investments out there. And as you mentioned, there are certain ones that you may put in some money and not see it for a while. And maybe that falls into a different category of maybe less risky, more risky, who knows? But the fact that you can break it down in each of those categories, I guess, just illuminates that a little more, to understand what you should know. And I guess that comes back to how you started out, saying that really this is just educational, right? Someone who wants to invest in anything should take the time to learn about what it is that they're going to invest in. Just, say, oh, I see other people doing this, I'll just write a check, right? Put in some cash. You could do that, but it's probably not going to be the best case scenario.
To me, it's about the questions that we ask, right? So knowing what questions to ask, and I go into great detail on some questions to ask, like asking sponsors, what's their track record, what would they do in this scenario, that scenario, how did things fare throughout the coronavirus situation, or what happens if. And so diving into those questions and understanding who the people are behind the deals, because at the end of the day, this is a people business, whether you like it or not. And I do, by the way, I love that it's a people business. And so just kind of going into those types of questions.
Now, do you have challenges? Maybe this is going to be a little bit of a more complex question, but in terms of commercial leases that you're dealing with tenants, you're dealing with, like you said, national credited tenants. Do you find that there's a lot of red tape sometimes when you're going through those type of leases, those type of tenants, because of the corporate structures of those things? And they have their own interests in mind rather than like a mom.
It is more complex, if you're comparing it to multifamily, absolutely. But corporate tenancy, it could be a beautiful thing, especially with triple net leases, being able to pass the expenses, the taxes, the insurance, CAM through to the tenants. Having a long-term lease is a beautiful thing, because you can, apply a capitalization rate to that. And and spin it off if you want to. And it's just something that is more commonly utilized in today's market. The downside to corporate, some of the bigger, higher credit tenants, they can try to push landlords around. And so you have to know when to use a hammer and when to use a feather. And so, it's a process, and, it's having, I don't even know how many tenants we have, but it's in the hundreds of tenants. Knowing how to communicate with them and help them when necessary is why we have industry veterans on our team who know how to handle those issues. And so
awesome.
It really just depends. But at the end of the day, here's another wise advice nugget. A mentor of mine taught me that if there is a conflict between the landlord and the tenant, the first thing you should do is RTFL. Have you ever heard of RTFL?
No, but probably something similar to that.
RTFL, I'll just cut to the chase, means read the freaking lease.
Lease. Okay. So I had with an M, the manual at the end. So I remember that one. Okay. Yeah. So read the lease.
Read the lease, because it's in English. You could read it. It usually is going to answer the question that is being, hopefully it's a good lease. And, we have enough experience to know what's a good lease and what's not. Hopefully it's a good enough lease. And the answer's right there as to what you do in that particular situation.
Gotcha.
And then, if it's not, and there needs to be some sort of negotiation, then I'll give you another wise advice nugget, which is know what your opponent's BATNA is. Do you know what the phrase BATNA?
No, go for it.
Okay. So BATNA is the best alternative to a negotiated agreement.
Okay.
And so most people, when they're in a negotiation, they're thinking about, what is my BATNA? If I don't get this deal done, I'm negotiating with Yona. What's the alternative for me? The best alternative for me if I can't get a deal done here, right? The best negotiators are able to determine what is the BATNA of the other person.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't get this deal done with me, right? So the more information that you could figure out about what their BATNA is, the more powerful you'll be in a negotiation position.
That's awesome. Wow, you've dropped quite a few wise advice nuggets over here today. And this is we got to go back and listen to this one again, because it's going to be a great one. A lot of great stuff coming out of here, Ben. But let's transition now. This is the final stage of the Wise Advice podcast, which we like to call the final four questions that I ask all my guests. We could probably have a better name for it, but
is this inspired by Passover, or is this a different four questions?
4 questions. You're the second person actually in 120 some episodes that has asked me that question. But yes. No, it was not, because the first.
Because I'll be the wise child if you want me to. Although my siblings think that I'm the rebellious child. So.
Well, I hope you're not the one that doesn't even know how to speak. So that's at least, we'll go with that.
Aren't we all four of those to an extent?
We are all four of those. That is true. That's a very good point. First question for you is, what is the worst job that you ever had?
Yeah, the worst job I ever had was one of the first jobs. I was working in a high-end men's clothing store, basically folding clothes back when people would actually shop.
Mm-hmm.
And folding clothes and vacuuming and all that kind of stuff just wasn't for me.
Wasn't for you. But you probably got some nice clothes out of it.
Yeah, my dad did.
The second question, what is a book you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
Yes. So Gary Keller wrote a book called The One Thing. And the bottom line premise is, like, once you focus, you could, that's the best way to become the best at whatever it is that you're focusing on. And so mm-hmm. I made a conscious decision to focus on raising capital and now educating people and commercial real estate syndications, and which is all one category in my eyes. So once I focused on that, I put my brokerage business to the side and just focus. It's been unbelievably accelerating in my career. And honestly, I'm the happiest I've ever been with my work.
That's awesome.
Really great. Yeah.
That's amazing. So that's obviously was a huge switch for you. We've definitely heard that book before on the podcast, and it is on the reading list. So whenever I get a double, hit on that, I got to move it up the list, because I got an ever compiling reading list, which will maybe never end, hopefully never end, but we'll definitely add that up there, move it up on the list. So the third question for you is, what is a skill or talent that you would like to learn?
So I'm going to go with something fun here, which is piano. I played piano as a little kid, and I got my hands on a piano that has been in my family. It's a little upright that I have at my house. And then I downloaded this app called Simply Piano that has been a really wonderful way to self-teach piano. So I love music. It's a big part of my life, and I'm looking forward to getting better at piano.
Well, good for you. Sounds good. Yeah, music's awesome. Piano should be good.
Yeah.
There we go. So we are up to the fourth and final question, which is, what does success mean to you?
Ooh, fun question. So the first thing that comes to mind, since we're just kind of talking about business, is passive income. And what I mean by that is to create enough passive income for myself so that not only does it cover all of my monthly normal expenses, but then some. I'm aiming pretty ambitiously to go beyond that. And why? Because I believe that is the key to financial freedom, which is the key to life freedom. And ultimately, that's what I want, is to have the freedom to spend time with my family and friends and have the resources to, give tzedakah and give back and take care of people along the way. So
right.
That's my answer.
That's a very, very wonderful, ambitious goal, have more passive income. And that's really, the Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? That's the whole premise of that book, is have more passive income than your expenses, and one less thing to worry about, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's always things to worry about, no matter what. And but yeah, from a success standpoint, I think about it often, and am luckily on that path, and it's a fun journey.
Amazing. Well, Ben, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Where can our listeners find you or reach out to you if they choose to?
Yes, thanks so much. So sure, hjhinvestments.com/book. Sign up for the book. You can also find me on our website. I'm on all the socials. My last name is a little unique. It's spelled Kogut. So it's at Ben Kogut. All the socials, I locked down at Ben Kogut. Sorry, other at Ben Kogut, but I'm trying to, control them all.
That's good. Like, I got all the own Weisses out there. So it's good. Nice. when you control it. Control your own name.
That's all we have, brother.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thanks again for taking the time. And hopefully we can do this again sometime soon. Wish you tremendous continued success, and looking forward to seeing where this takes you in 5 years or 10 years or whenever that is.
Thanks for the opportunity. And thanks for the wise advice and for inspiring all of us along this journey. So thanks so much.
Oh, pleasure. And to all our listeners, remember, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.